Hi, I'm Alan Ross. I'm the managing editor of APC Media. This is DISTRIBUTECH International 2024 Interviews with Thought Leaders. Enjoy. My next guest is Michael Sheppard. Michael and I have done this before. Michael is the CEO of PTR, which is a research organization that we are partnered with. And I think we rely on you guys for a look at the future more than we rely on our own ability to look at the future. So thank you for that. Thank you for the great work that PTR does, which we'll talk about in a bit. But first of all, let's talk about you. I understand that you're moving your family from Germany to the United States in a month.
That's right.
How do they feel about that?
So, well, I got two little kids, a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. So they know, like my 3-year-old knows a little bit about it that's going on. He's talking about, hey, I'm going to go spend time with grandparents now. Okay. But yeah, as a family, it's been quite a journey. I've been in Germany for 10 years now. So it's kind of like a new change myself, kind of a new chapter of our lives. So really looking forward to, being back stateside and kind of experiencing, having a family in the States.
Yeah. So how did you get into this whole industry as it relates to PTR? What was your background and how'd you get here? Yeah,
so a little journey there. So I graduated 2008, finance degree. Right as, let's say it wasn't so beneficial to be in the finance industry. So I'd actually done my thesis on collateralized debt obligations at the time. Okay. So if I believed what I was actually, writing, then maybe I should consider, at least temporarily, some alternatives. So
as you were writing your thesis, you said,
"Yeah, I'm like, oh crap!" Yeah. So
great.
It's fortunately, my father had co-founded a market research company.
Okay.
Before then, I had interned there in the past. I thought, hey, take what would be a financial analyst kind of perspective and apply it to market research, right? The same kind of core philosophy of trying to figure out what's going on and try to create models to, predict the future.
You should have been the Wall Street analyst. I mean, they would have loved you, finance and, go ahead.
So basically got into the company, and the company was kind of a fast growth company, traditionally known for semiconductor coverage. That's where I learned how to become an analyst doing semiconductor research. And then through acquisitions, ended up as part of IHS, which is now part of S&P Global recently. But throughout my journey at that organization, I got into solar photovoltaic research. There is that semiconductor crossover there on the polysilicon level.
Yeah.
So did that kind of research, and that actually got me into, let's say, the energy and eventually even the power industry. So I ended up kind of managing a consulting group there. And the questions we were getting all the time were, hey, help us figure out the power grid. Like, yeah, great, you do, kind of end-dur kind of research, but how does it all connect, right? And separately, we were doing kind of consumer and industrial research, like, connect this for us, please. And so that was all custom, and I thought, hey, this kind of knowledge, the methodology requires you to spend a lot of time and effort. Every electricity network is independent and unique. You have to roll up your sleeves and really do the work. So we created PTR with that kind of goal to really understand the networks in each country around the world.
And how long ago was that?
So that was 2016. Okay. So we're almost at our 8-year anniversary. It's coming
Excellent.
up.
We're going to talk about PTR in just a minute because I really value what you all do and appreciate it. I want to switch gears and I want to talk about the industry. You've been doing research on the industry even before PTR.
Yeah.
So you kind of seen it like the rest of us seen it. Static, not a lot of dynamism, it's decades of not changing, very closed systems we don't share with anybody. All of a sudden in the last 5 years, we've seen some pretty dramatic change to the point where we're at right now.
Yeah.
In your perspective, what does that look like to where we are right now in the industry?
It's very surprising. I think even as an outside observer, you could say it's very surprising because in my background with solar, change is constant in solar, right? And let's say familiarity with a regulatory driven or incentivized kind of an environment, familiar with that. But in terms of established norms and traditions and kind of what kind of let's say operating metrics drive these companies, that's all changing. Right? We're having conversations with our customers and prospects about the things that nobody really understands yet, that the industry itself is developing. For instance, supply chains around EV charging, right? Like what are the standards there? How are procurement decisions being made? Like these are the kind of questions we're helping our customers answer right now. And it's a very dynamic market, and it's all new things, right? Even though it's the things being sold are the same things, they're being applied in new ways.
Absolutely.
And that's what's very interesting. And it's involving new characters, like the Googles and Microsofts of the world that are being involved intimately, not just in let's say on the fringe, but actually, core within the networks, with all that sensing and measuring and processing of that information, and with the new generative AI that we talk about, it's all being applied to this kind of legacy network. It's just completely new in the way it's being done. And of course, as such, the business models and the ways, what I call revenue streams, we're now unlocking a lot of this potential. And one of the research practices we've done for a few years at PTR is around storage. And I always when doing storage research, I was always thinking, hey, there's 9 things you can do, ancillary services that storage can provide to the grid. Why is it only one at a time kind of thing, right? And why is it only, you can have a agreement on one aspect, right? And so that kind of concept around multiple revenue streams, I had first kind of encountered, at least in the network side of things, the electric network side of things.
Yeah.
That's unlocking right now, and it's unlocking real time.
We just had somebody, and one of the things he talked about was mobile storage to anticipate weather events.
Mm-hmm.
Are we going to be able to do utility grade mobile storage for weather events, and what that looks like, and some of the players that are playing in that, which is so storage is a passion of mine. We're going to come back to it. But before we get to storage, one of the reasons storage is coming up so much is the other big buzzword in the industry right now. There's a bunch of them, but I'm going to go with one.
Okay.
I was the president of the Electric Power Reliability Alliance, where I retired, right? Mm-hmm. I felt like 15 years ago, I invented reliability in the power industry because we were talking about it back then. Today, the new word is resilience. Reliability is keep the lights on. Yeah. Resilience is, the lights went off, get them back on.
Yeah.
And because of weather events, bad actors, both physical and cyber, all of the different things that are going on, resiliency has taken a front seat. And that's what utilities are looking for. How do I become resilient in the face of so many unknowns?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that from your perspective.
It's very interesting. I'll even add to or compound that problem, right?
Thank you. As if we needed to.
Yeah, it's the going back to these new actors that are being involved, right? So one of the major new actors are data centers, right?
So they're not bad actors; they're new actors.
New actors.
Okay, got it.
Right. They're we won't call them bad because they provide a lot of revenue.
Right. Exactly. Right.
So, and their concept or philosophy about how they do business is very iterative, right? And so you have these new players that are okay with, I won't quote directly, but moving fast and break things, kind of mentality, right? And, which obviously goes against the electric network and how that was built.
Utilities don't like
the philosophy behind operating and maintaining it, right? So it's how do we come to this medium? And this is where the solution providers really have to step up their game, in my opinion, right? It's you need to be able to provide an iterative solution to their customers, the guys that are paying for all this new equipment, while maintaining the same standards and let's say support that they had done with the owners and operators of the grid. So it's they have to provide both of these things simultaneously, and that's where we're hearing stories about providing flexible solutions, anticipating it's not about anticipating the needs, it's also about understanding what someone really means, right? Interpreting what they're saying, hey, the customer didn't ask for this.
Even if they don't know it.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
And I mean, to some degree that was always true, right? But at the same time, there was a narrow tolerance there. Now you're deploying stuff into a job site, being ready to reconfigure, right? And that's entirely new. So that's an entirely new level of flexibility that's required from, let's say, the solution providers. So I think that's the real change that's happening too, is the ways that solutions are being provided also has to kind of be flexible as well.
So you just hit another point, solutions providers. 5 years ago, 10 years ago, definitely 10 years ago, but even 5 years ago, you would see at an event like this, you'd see, somebody selling bucket trucks and big fans and all kinds of stuff. You don't see that anymore. You see IBM and you see Google and Microsoft and Dell and a lot of different suppliers into the industry than have been there typically in the past. We had a lot of asset suppliers.
Yeah.
We don't have asset suppliers as much anymore as we have people coming in and helping utilities make change. Talk about that for a little bit.
It's not different than what I've seen within industry. So you could say 10 years ago, this was happening in industry in a big way. And living in Germany for many years, there's like conferences like Hannover Messe and such, where you get to see kind of deployments of things like automation solutions into factories, right? And that was a big trend. I see that happening right now, and that's what it looks like. Is basically replacing kind of pure asset providers with asset plus software, plus consulting, plus analytics,
right.
Like plus privacy, storage, cybersecurity. Like you're adding this kind of like you're adding to the stack of value that you're providing. Now it's a stack of value that you didn't in the past. You didn't value that stuff, right? It wasn't required to value that, right? So it's like an evolving understanding of that, right? And there's a big education effort required there, right? In order to get those customers and prospects familiar with, hey, you do need additional solutions, and instead of like organically building it and having to build new teams inside your own organization to facilitate this, please take this turnkey solution. Now, I think it's something that's going to evolve over time, and there'll be specialists as well. It's just like, even though it's a very established industry, there's all these new solutions and requirements, you could say, and new regulations, right, in place. We're going through this phase of having this turnkey solution approach, and I think it'll eventually, go back to more specialized solutions as everyone kind of figures out, okay, we want to do this inside, we'll outsource that. But yeah, I think that's also why you're seeing a lot of like, hey, we'll just handle everything for you right now. Is just everything is new and moving, and people are just trying to focus on the core value proposition or the highest value proposition right now, outsource everything else, and then we'll kind of figure out where everyone's play is. But as a third party looking at the market, one of the things that I mentioned before is we're doing a lot of supply chain research, right, on things like data centers. So the challenge we have is who goes in what box, right? Because now a lot of people are doing a lot of different things, and it's like typically you would be able to typecast people like, okay, this is an OEM, this is an EPC, right? And it's like, oh, like these guys are in this area or this region of the country, they're doing this thing, right? Over here, they're doing something else, right? And it's all based on capabilities, perceived value, and access to the customer, right? Usual stuff, but it's very dynamic right now, and I have to say, very exciting to be researching as well.
And it's hard for you to tell, because nobody wants. This is an industry, in my opinion, that likes to be first to be second.
Yeah.
Is it proven? Yeah, I want something new and proven. Like, no, you get new or you get proven.
Yeah.
But I see more collaborative effort than I've ever seen, where utilities, in particular, are open to multiple parties coming in to work together to give me a solution. A little bit more hesitance to do one, because nobody wants to make a mistake to pick the wrong one, right? Now, if it's proven and you're the right one, they're going to be a winner. But right now, there's a very openness to collaboration, multiple people, whether it's IBM working with Siemens, working with whatever it is, they seem to be working together more than ever, and utilities are kind of being okay with that. Is that going to be the new future, or what is the new future? What does it look like in the utility industry a decade from now?
Before I go forward, I'll go back a couple of years where we were all talking about DERMS implementation and seeing utilities work with like 10 different providers, right? And then the question I'd always ask is, how much of their network is under your coverage, right? And it's like, oh yeah, we got one conductor or whatever, right? It's like 5 substations, right? It's like, okay, well, so they're still in this kind of trial mode, satisfies the regulators. Hey, we're like, we're checking it out. We're doing our diligence, right? But I think moving forward, we're going to see less of that kind of work with everybody. But we will see, like, and to some degree, I don't want to think about too much about consortiums and going down that road. Saw a lot of that when looking inside industries. Like you kind of had to pick a camp, kind of thing, right? And I don't think that would be healthy either. I think.
Do you think that's possible?
I think
that
the technology is there, to be honest,
okay.
right? So from what we're capable of doing now, it's already there, right? So concepts of things like bidirectionality for EV charging or the home, it can be done. It's easy, right? We've figured it out for decades. It's really, in my mind, the bottleneck is on the business models, and you could say the public perception, and therefore the regulatory environment. Like these are the real challenges right now. Is to not trip ourselves up, along the way of the technology being involved with these other hurdles.
So the technology you think is there. The problem is the regulatory environment, all of the other things.
For the most part, yes.
Okay.
I mean, there's we look at technologies like let's say silicon carbide penetrating into the networks and things like that, and in some isolated places we see that as a potential bottleneck. But by far and away, the majority is you could stack two of those together and still get the problem solved, right? Maybe it's a bit less efficient, but the point is that you move forward and you progress. Let's say solving the main, challenge, right? If that is increase your computational, power, it's like, okay, you can do that with twice as many data centers right now. But how do you solve, getting transmission to those? Or, if you expand that, how do you then procure all the right equipment there, right? If we have procurement shortages and things transformers right now, how are we supposed to do that in an efficient way? Are we going to, in the U.S., lose half, currently about half of the market, right? Data centers are in the U.S. Is that going to maintain if we have supply shortages on the equipment side, right? So,
and we tell them they can't buy from certain countries, and so you've got all of that, the exacerbations of those things.
Well, it's an interesting trend we're seeing right now, where we're seeing kind of a relocalization of production. Right. So we see that actually almost across the board. With the different products that we look at. So I think this is also a trend that's we're going to go through an iteration here. It's going to, be, 10, 15 year cycle. But I think that's going to improve. By doing that, that's going to improve, let's say, understandings of the true costs of things. It's also going to we'll be able to more quickly react to things like scaling up of, data centers and things like that with this. But it's probably going to be 5 years before we can really, unlock some of these things. So I'm hoping in the interim, we can unlock that other bottleneck, which is around the policy side and just making sure that we don't get in our own way, with these kind of things. And
Switch gears. Let's go now. You started off and you got to PTR. Now you're in PTR. Talk to me about PTR, because we do rely on you very much. So it's Power Technology Research.
That's right.
And we are Power Systems Technology.
Yeah,
that's why we use PST, use PTR. But talk to me. I can vouch for the quality of what we get from you guys. I know you do. You're not like people that just say, "Hey, buy my research." Is one thing. You do a lot of very complex consultative type of research for people. Talk to me a little bit about that aspect of the company.
Sure.
And why that is, and why it's growing, and why you can be trusted in that area.
Thanks, Alan. So in terms of the way we do it, and as I said, my background's finance. I'm an outlier in the company. So we are a mostly electrical engineering company, right? So it's almost like we could have been an EPC, right? But we decided what we wanted to do was to help people to understand these market trends, right? Because it was not well understood. And I worked for a company at the time of 15,000 people, and we didn't know, right, how it worked. Even though we were experts in generation, we were experts in consumption of energy, we didn't know this, right? And I felt like it would be really great to be able to answer questions like, what is the capacity for the grid to absorb things like renewable energy, right? On a region by region basis, right? And what about new things like electric vehicles? Like, how are we going to be able to adopt that, right? Are we going to be able to proactively inform the market, right? And this includes, policymakers, like, about what's going on here, right? To then make it so it's not like a knee-jerk reaction to something after it happens and there's a lot of inefficiency lost along the way, is we truly, see ourselves as a participant in the industry in terms of like helping to, let's say, for the broader audience, understand what's going on and to help them, understand. If you're new to the industry, we like working with and training people to like get them up to speed on what's going on, right? If you had shifted over from another sector. So we really see our role in kind of the training education of even the broader sector. And that's really a core mission of ours. In terms of what we're doing that's kind of new is we're always trying to make sure that we can quantify, whatever we're doing. And again, we're engineering kind of company. So we do a lot now around like web scraping and things like that of maps, trying to get, where are the EV installations happening? Where are the ports being electrified regarding, shorter ship power, right? And we are using more and more of those actual data centers to help us do that. So we also see ourselves in kind of our own little, version of things as we're trying to make sure we stay on top of trends. We are more and more automating ourselves and trying to keep our core time focused on the actual analytics and analyzing, talking with our customers. We really want to maximize that and not get bogged down as much as possible in all the research side of what we're doing, right? So that's really where we like to be spending our time. And
it's hard to do future research on an industry that's changing so rapidly.
Yeah,
you can do that in micro steps, but trying to do a macro step, you're too prone to being wrong because things change. So I didn't know about the training and education part. We need to do more about that. We need to publicize that more as about part of what you do, because having the research behind the training and education is really important.
Yeah, it makes it more digestible, right? You can trust it, when you know that there was a proper methodology in place to say something about the market, right? And so we use that to kind of build rapport, and then in order to help get people up to speed that may not have that background, right? And I'm just thinking about in our projects, usually one of the first things we do is we get a bunch of pictures, right? So we get pictures and we say, this is and then we create pages and pages of definitions. This is what we define as a switchgear, right? These are the functions that we include. These are the functions we don't include for this scope of work. And it's like it is a you could say an alignment, right? That's required, and it also helps us to demonstrate to our customers like, hey, we understand the complexities here. And one company may call it one thing, another company may call it another thing, but we need to make sure we're really defined on those definitions. Yeah. And I'm thinking now, about my earlier comment about like, hey, if you're shipping something to the site that may be reconfigured, it's like, okay, we have to think about those kind of definitions as well. But that's a big part of what we see is also, education, because maybe multiple stakeholders in that same project at the customer have different understandings as well. Right. So we kind of see ourselves also as a standard, if you will. Yeah. So when you're talking about a market of something that, according to our definition, like this is what we're defining. You're
becoming the Websters of the power industry. You got a definition for it. That the other thing you mentioned, words we use differently. One will have an acronym of something, somebody else have a different acronym.
Oh, yes.
We act like we know what they are and go, I have no idea what that is, right? So
especially as like we're entering this data center realm and we're talking about semiconductors and things like that. It's very interesting when those acronyms collide.
I use this term a lot because I really believe in it, and I think this industry likes that. And the word is trusted advisors. Utility industries want trusted advisors. They want people that they can say, hey, you've done a good job, you are, and they're very loyal in that way. PTR is a trusted advisor for us, so I thank you very much, Michael.
Thank you, Alan.